Are you, with your, is that an iPad?
Yeah.
Can I share it?
Maybe.
You didn't like that password?
Let me see if. Wait, maybe I don't. Is that an iPad?
It's that's the YouTube that's delayed.
Do I share that? One.
Okay, we'll stop our conservation philosophy.
Yep. Moving on.
Do we know if Commissioner Webb is going to be here or not? Have you
I
heard?
thought so. I think only.
Okay,
Mason
just
and Wanda
Mason.
said they were.
We'll give him a minute or two. 'Cause if we wait. If we start now, we'll be done by.
Do you want me to do the pledge too? So it's Commissioner Mason.
Oh, sure. Yeah, last time I just.
Yeah.
You always, I didn't even look ahead. I'm like, oh, they're not here. Okay.
You just defer to the left. I noticed that I was on your left-hand side for some reason today, so I figured I'd get it anyway.
Well, I saw that today. Just when I go by Water Park. You know, I see these people spend $100 to tear their park strips out with zero scape in it. And yet we got grass on this big old slope of the park that you can't use unless you're tubing or, you know, ice blocking. It's like, maybe that should be torn out and put zero scape and just grass in the bottom.
That'd be a fun sled hill. Now they're breaking arms and losing skin.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get started. He can join us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I am Chairman Thomas. I'd like to welcome everybody out to the North Ogden City Planning Commission meeting, July 20th, 2022. We'll begin our meeting by having an invocation or thought from Commissioner Watson, following which he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Watson.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to gather together as a planning commission tonight. We're grateful for the city of North Ogden. We get to live here and help it. And we ask thee for thy spirit today to follow us, help us, and guide us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll make note that Commissioner Watson and Commissioner Webb are excused tonight. Oh, sorry, Mason. You know, it's questionable. Commissioner Mason and Commissioner Webb are excused. Minutes consideration and action to approve the June 15th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there any corrections or adjustments that need to take place in those minutes? If not, entertain a motion.
I was here. I show excused on those minutes. Right?
So that's over.
I was not here, so.
Oh, maybe I wasn't. Sorry.
It wasn't last time.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it was
right.
two.
June 15th.
Yep. That's me.
I'll make a motion that we approve the June 15th, 2022 planning commission meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We don't have to. We'll forego our opening meeting statement since we have repeat customers here. They know how to line their P's and Q's. Ex parte communications or conflicts of interest on our one item tonight. Any issues with commissioners? All right, planning or public comments. This time we'll open up for public comments. Anybody would like to address the commission for an item that is not on the agenda, please do so at this time. Step up to the mic and state your name and address, or if you're on line, please raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting. Is anybody online with us tonight?
No attendees.
Okay. No public comments. All right. Administrative item number 6, subdivision ordinance -2022-10. Consideration and action on an administrative application for preliminary approval of the Majestic View Townhome Subdivision, First Amendment. So this is 10 lots located at approximately 2050 North Washington Boulevard. Presenter is Brandon Bell, our associate planner. Brandon.
Thank you, Chair. So this is at 2050 North Washington Boulevard approximately. And this is a continuation of an existing development of townhomes that's already been considered. Other land use actions have already been considered by the commission in recent weeks. Including the rezone of the property as well as the site plan approval, which is at the last meeting. This is the subdivision, so creating the property legally to allow the addition of these 10 additional units in 2 additional buildings. And so what's happening is 10 new lots are being created for the units, but the lots for those units will be the boundaries of the units themselves. And then there will be a larger lot where the landscaping and the streets reside that's being amended to extend the street and the landscaped area around the units. So the city engineer submitted a review memo dated last week on July 13th, and what staff is in need of a will serve letter and secondary water will serve letter for for secondary water as well as for sewer. The applicant also needs to provide full improvement plans to the city engineer, meeting the requirements listed in the engineer's report. He's not yet received those, and so that needs to be provided to him. And then this is a 10 lot subdivision. The large lot, again, contains the open space and the streets. And then what they're doing they're amending the larger landscaping that exists in the existing portion of the development. They're adding that property into one property as opposed to two different lots with the landscaping and the streets. And so that's the main adjustment that's happening with regards to a larger lot. The site plan again was approved, and then the locations that were given to you in the site plan approval with regards to the distances from the property line were actually from the subdivision plat that you're looking at tonight. And actually, could you pull that up, Scott, the actual proposed subdivision plat? The main requirement for the R4 zone is that you have 800 square foot minimum footprints. And if you could zoom in on the new portion of it, that'd be great. Thank you. 800 square foot minimum for the building lots. Each of the lots have been, for the units themselves, have been measured at 855. So they comply with that requirement. There is also a requirement that the site as a whole has 2,000 square feet per every unit not including the building, but the entire site as a whole. And it's well above that. That totals 80,000 square feet, which is just under 2 acres. And so 4 acres, they're well above that. So the parcel where all the land is located will meet the requirements for the zone as well as the lots for the individual units. And then there is a couple of adjustments to the plat that staff feels are necessary. If you look at the two lines that separate the current two parcels, it basically looks like it's staying as a separate parcel, but they do need to be combined. And so there's that thick black line that then has that circle in the center. We need that thick black line to be removed and replaced with a fainter gray line, so it's a ghosted line. And that would then indicate that it was a former property line instead of an existing property line. So it shows that it's being combined into one parcel as opposed to still two separate parcels. The plat should also be adjusted. They need to essentially zoom out on the plat. The portion that is that smaller rectangle to the north is being taken from an existing piece of property. At least in the city's eyes, it's still existing as one piece of property. And so they need to zoom out and show that entire parcel that smaller piece of property is being taken from, so that it's clear what parcel is coming from and what's left in the remainder. That should include things like bearings and distances, so that they know exactly what's left in the remainder parcel. And what that will allow the applicant to clean up what was essentially a subdivision that bypassed the city and didn't get city approval. But we need to have the full boundaries of that original parcel shown. And then a final detail is that there's as part of the subdivision, a 10-foot sidewalk does need to be installed as part of the subdivision. That's on our books and the public works standards that it's been a requirement of subdivision. And so there is an existing walk on the sidewalk. But it needs to be expanded to 10 feet since the lot is being reconfigured and more townhomes are being added to the development. So the front property line of the subdivision will need to be adjusted by dedicating property or an easement added to the plat in order to allow that sidewalk to be added and publicly accessible. If the widened sidewalk and 1 foot of property behind the sidewalk will not all be in the city or right of way with the existing location of the front property line. So what I'm trying to get at here essentially is that county records, it's hard to tell exactly where the front property line is. And so we need them to go to their surveyor and show us where the property line is in relation to the fence and the sidewalk, and make sure that both of those will either fit on the current public right of way, or they adjust the front property line so that the full sidewalk width will fit in the public right of way plus 1 foot, which has been typical. And if they need to do that by easement, they can also do that, but we need to have either one of those two means of dedicating the property or easement so that public access can be available to the sidewalk.
And that's only required along Washington Boulevard.
Oh, yes, that's correct. So then the other, there's an existing fence that's a few feet behind the sidewalk. I went out there and looked at it at site. I am, it seems like a 10-foot sidewalk can be added and still have clearance for the fence, but I'm not a surveyor and I just want to make sure that they can demonstrate to us that the 10-foot sidewalk can be built. We do have a provision that allows slight adjustment to the width of the sidewalk in case there's not enough room for the 10-foot sidewalk and the 1-foot piece of property behind the sidewalk to be either in an easement or dedicated. And so what the condition we're recommending on that topic is that the width of the sidewalk that may be reduced slightly at the approval of staff after review of site conditions per the public works standards, and also on them demonstrating to us where the property line is and if there's space to put the sidewalk in. So I'll just kind of summarize these recommended conditions of approval. That the thick black line that's shown between the two property pieces of property being combined be removed and replaced with the lighter gray line to show that it is a former property line and that the parcels are actually being combined, that the parcel that the property is being taken from, that the entire boundary of that be shown on the plat, including bearings and links, in order to clean up the illegal subdivision and show what's left of that parcel that it's being taken from. And then the 10-foot sidewalk being added with the property line either being adjusted or an easement being put on the plat, allowing public access and the sidewalk easement. And then they do that through that they demonstrate through with their surveyor that there's enough space for that sidewalk to be built in the existing right of way. And then we recommended a provision for the sidewalk to be potentially reduced slightly if needed, if there's an issue with the position of the fence relative to the required width of the sidewalk. We also need signature blocks need to be adjusted to match these standards. They were different than what we typically require. The requirements of the North Ogden City Engineers Report prior to final plat approval, and then the requirements of the Technical Review Committee letter, which occurred a couple months ago. I'll also remind you that since our ordinance has changed recently, this will not be coming back to you should you decide to approve it and feel it meets the ordinances. Final approval will be done by staff, and essentially that will be a matter of us checking the boxes to make sure that they've met the conditions. Once staff determines that they've met those conditions, then final approval should be granted by staff. So I think that covers my entire comments. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, you covered it pretty well. The only question I did have is, we've got referenced as 10 lots, but once this becomes Mountain View subdivision First Amendment plat, would it not be 40 lots?
Yeah,
It's a 40 lot subdivision. Okay. Any other questions for Brandon? The applicant like to address us? Depending on what we say.
Beautiful night.
All right, thank you.
We're good. I was gonna ask real quick while we're here, what's the code for a park strip? How wide do you have to be?
They're typically 4.5 feet. I believe the city engineer has the ability to give some flexibility on that if he determines it's appropriate, but
Washington Boulevard has a specific street standard, so we can share that public works standard with you for the design, because it's likely considerably wider. The right of way width that Washington is quite a ways likely away from your edgy sidewalk, so you'll still retain most of that park strip, and then the new sidewalk will likely go on the inside.
Okay, any other discussion?
We covered this subdivision.
We have, yes.
I will make a motion that we grant preliminary approval of the Majestic View Townhome subdivision First Amendment, subject to the conditions recommended in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? I just do have a question to the applicant. Are you good with the conditions of the staff report? Okay. Since you don't come back to us, you have to answer to them for final, so. All right, Commissioner Lunt,
Yes.
Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nancaro,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, back to public comments. If anybody would like to address us, please step up to the mic and do so this time. All right, remarks from planning commissioners? Nothing?
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah,
The only thing I was gonna say is the playground that they wanted on that. You're putting it right next to Washington Boulevard. Is that gonna be? Because everything else, you have the storm drains right there, so you're pushing that right up next to the road.
I think it's just a matter of probably what's required and up to you guys to find somewhere that works well with it, but I know on that site, that's kind of your open area, so.
Mostly everything else is retention pond. We could put it in a retention pond, it could be like playground, swim pool, splash pad.
I've seen them in retention ponds before, as long as, if it, certain water level, then you have to do it something different, but it's common for them to be in the bottom of those.
Do they have requirements on what we have to put, or is that just up to staff as far as like size and?
I think it's your recommendations for staff and the staff approves. So
There's some language, I don't remember what it is, but there's a very slight amount of specificity in the ordinance, so we just look at the ordinance. And
one slide, 4 feet wide, 60 inches long, one tire swing. No, just kidding. I think it's really up to you to pick and to say, this is what we want to do. So it's,
Sorry, I should have asked him before I said we were okay. We're good now.
yeah.
Yeah, I did have one question. I read in the paper that Ogden City did not approve giving that parcel of land at the southern tip of the city to that developer.
Cooperstown?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
That they didn't recommend that move. So what does that do to that project? Does it kill it or?
So the applicant is working with Ogden City right now on a resolution to that. What the decision was based on, which was really on North Ogden's ability to accept that many units. And so at this point, it's up to the applicant to work out a solution with Ogden City. If they ultimately can, then that project can be either split in two or ignore the Ogden side and be retailored to be redesigned, in which case it would come back through planning commission and then ultimately city council for that development agreement change.
So what the said in the paper had to do with the tax revenue?
Yeah, all of a sudden Ogden City decided there was lots of revenue on that piece that they were going to be missing out
There
on.
wasn't a lot of revenue.
So, yeah, but that was the reason, my understanding. So I think if they can collect the taxes off it, then they're okay with it. But
I read a map, they're going to give it over five over that little bit of money.
yeah,
That's all.
okay. Anything from you, Scott?
Just the proposed joint training between the planning commission and city council that would be scheduled on a city council night, so that'd be Tuesday, with Ben Becker, who's really a public finance guru in the state, was formerly with Zion Public Finance, and I can't remember now. He's changed over to, but really looking forward to that, looking at creative ways to finance public infrastructure that would include everything from sidewalks to parks and open spaces and purchase of property that we might need for public infrastructure. So it'll count as one of the training hours that we need to do. And then next meeting on August 3rd, we have a number of legislative items that we're working on, 2 zoning text amendments that are specific to applicant requests, and then a third one that is kind of larger question from the council about short-term rentals. So we'll have a good meeting, healthy discussion in 2 weeks.
That training session on the 23rd, that's at 6 p.m.
Unless we schedule it like 30 minutes before, or I'm not totally sure. So watch that with Susan
Okay.
Nance, but we'll try to accommodate everybody's schedules.
That's August 23rd.
Now I need to
Okay.
confirm that my memory's right. Yes,
It was in that email you said.
August 4th Tuesday of August. Yep.
Okay, anything from you, Brandon? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and second for adjournment. All in favor? Aye.